I'm pleased now to introduce our next speaker, Dan Martello. Dan is Director of Business Development with Fathom, a leading digital marketing company. He is an integral part of Fathom's online marketing capability enhancements, and his primary responsibilities include targeting new business opportunities and developing strategic partnerships for Fortune 1000 and mid-market companies. Dan is going to show us how important the internet is to helping us grow our business. We're delighted to have Dan with us this afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you, Bob, for a nice introduction. Really excited to be here today. The majority of my time I spend talking to folks like you or the sales and marketing people who report to you. And I'm educating and informing them on ways that the internet or digital marketing can help grow their business. I'd like to start today with a quote you're probably all really familiar with. Originally attributed to a turn-of-the-century retail pioneer, John Wanamaker, later made famous by Lee Iacocca. And let's talk about what type of advertising was available, or where was John wasting his advertising money back at the turn of the century? It was primarily newspapers, select periodicals, and maybe even some streetcars with signs painted on them, or draping a banner over a horse and buggy. Well, when Mr. Iacocca made this statement much more famous, we were fully engaged in the modern advertising age. TV, radio, print, newspaper, direct mail, very select periodicals. Still, the question existed: I'm wasting half of my advertising dollars. Many of you today in the room are probably asking yourself the same question. Where's my advertising money going? So my goal today is to have you take away a few things that might get you to change your thinking about that age-old dilemma. First of all, we all have, everybody in this room has to view their website is no longer just an online catalog. It's a living, breathing tool that's probably the most effective way you could start generating some revenue for your company. Think of it as a 24-hour salesman. It's always working. It covers the globe. It has an in-depth knowledge of every product you sell. What it isn't is it doesn't have inflated expense reports, doesn't golf on Fridays, and never complains about its commission. It's also this 24/7 salesman is delivering the right message to the right customer at the right time and helping you by automating this process. This 24/7 salesman's helping you lower your customer acquisition costs while driving more revenue. Let's talk about a little bit how we can activate this 24/7 salesman for you. At Fathom, we've coined this simple model as digital funnel management, and the most important part of that model is on the right-hand side of this, and this is the customer intent. And one of the key takeaways from my talk today is that while the buying, I should say, the customer purchasing process hasn't really changed. They're always researching, considering, and committing. The vehicles in the areas where they're doing that has changed. So you need to ask yourselves as a company, for this 24-hour salesman, how are you building awareness to acquire that customer when they're initially researching your company? And what are you doing to, once that customer finds you, and as Larry mentioned in his presentation, what are you doing to differentiate, to get them from just regular awareness, to get them from research to consideration? And once they're considering, once they've raised their hand, what are you doing to get a commitment to us that engage them into a serious conversation with your company? Let's talk a little bit about the top end of that funnel. And how can these customers find you? How can you build that awareness? I put Google up there as an example because it represents about 80% of all the searches. And I'll bet you everybody here today coming to a forum for innovation and growth was saying, I hope Dan talks about ball bearings today. So, but there's a point to this, because that simple search term, that search term that's been around well before John's day, there is a lot of activity and engagement around that simple search term out on the internet today. And as a matter of fact, that search term, as Google indexes all of these pages and determines every web page that term is present, it's in over 10 million web pages. And 22,000 people a month are searching for that term, ball bearings. So no offense to anybody from Timken in the crowd today if I had made some offense on ball bearings. But also, I'd like to share some examples with you on how this kind of capturing some of this demand has worked for some of the clients we work with. A number of years ago, right when our business was just picking up, a customer came to us, and they make the pop-up displays. You're probably very familiar. You saw them out in the lobby. It's just a pop-up display banner. Made a lot of changes in the trade show industry. Like probably many in this room, all of you have done a number of trade shows, and you used to take that trade show, stick it on a pallet, ship it to the exhibit hall, hope the guys from the dock get that in time. But this little pop-up display offers you a great opportunity for smaller venues like this or tabletop venues to just pull up that display and have an instant branding for your company. So this market was starting to pick up. And this company came to us and said, hey, we'd like to be on the Google's first page, small company, about 3 employees. Said, we'd like to be on Google's first page for this pop-up display banner. And we said, yeah, okay, let's work with you. Let's put together a strategy in place, how we're going to do that. And without getting into all the details, that typically involves the structuring of the website content. So Google deems that it is very relevant around that keyword search. And when the more relevant you are, the higher you go up in the rankings. So we put the strategy in place in about 6 months. We get them up to page 1 of the search engine rankings. All of a sudden, orders start flying in. And they're getting leads, they're fulfilling orders, they start hiring some new people. They're within the next 2 years, they've added more products. We put the same strategy in place. And, long story short is this company in about 4 years goes from 3 employees to 35 employees. And when asked about their growth in an article for Cranes, said we attribute all of that to the internet marketing we started when we were just a small company. So great example of how a company can grow, how you can capture some of that existing demand. Another example I'd like to share with you is kind of staying ahead of some emerging demand and how we can, if there's terms out there that might not be popular, but it's an emerging market, there's some things we can do. So we work with this company, came to us, and they do spill containment. So anytime there's fuel or hazardous materials changing or transferring, they build these containment systems around them. So we're working with this company, and they say, we're getting on the first page of Google for great terms like spill containment systems, and so we're doing some pretty good work for them. Well, about 2 years into the program, sales manager, the VP of sales, I should say, comes in, talks to me and the program manager, and he goes, hey guys, great job you're doing, getting great leads from you. What I'd like you to do is get me to the first page on Google for fracking containment. And I look over at the project manager, and I go, what's fracking? He's going, yeah, I don't know. And then he gets on his computer and starts looking. He goes, hey, but Bob, there's nobody searching for this. What is it? He goes, don't worry about it. This thing's going to be big. We're sitting on top of this big reservoir of natural gas. Fracking's this process to get it out. They all need containment. So once again, we put that strategy in place. We get them up to the first page rather quickly. It's not very competitive. Nobody's even talking about this yet. Well, all of a sudden, that buzz starts hitting, and everyone in this room has seen all the articles and everything came out there. Well, all of a sudden, all these jobs start getting bidded. And within 6 months of this gaining popularity, this company put $1 million into their pipeline. So, just a great example of knowing of an emerging market, capturing that real estate, that awareness real estate early, and positioning your company for great growth opportunities. I just talked with the CEO of this company a couple weeks ago. Even last year, his company grew 35% last year and attributed all of that growth to all the activities we're doing for digital marketing. So I also have included some icons about social media properties here. In this awareness stage of the funnel when customers are researching, you can utilize social media. Why it's not really a direct demand-generated thing like somebody searching a keyword and your name coming up. It's a great opportunity for you to do some branding and do some segmentation. So LinkedIn we see a lot more common with in the B2B environment. For the business to business, if you're looking at a business to business model, where Facebook is more of a consumer-driven model. And what it allows you to do in LinkedIn, for example, it allows you to segment by title, by vertical, by group they might be in, and you can have ads in your company appear to build that awareness there. Facebook offers the same type of segmentation, but they offer it more for consumer demographics. So that's where those two fit you can pay for ads that are very segmented to the target audience you're going after. But just one thing to pull away, once again, the consumer, the way they're buying things is changing. Only 7% of B2B businesses that are looking to initiate the buying process, only 7% aren't using search engines. So if you're not aware and they can't find you, they're not going to consider you. So now we've taken them to all right, we've got them to your website. As Larry had mentioned in his presentation, how are you different? What's our differentiation? What's our value proposition? What are we going to do to get them from research to consider? And this is where a very effective content strategy comes in. And with this content strategies, this is where you can identify all the advantages of your products and services. But more importantly, you can start identifying some of the solutions, some of the specific applications, some of the things you provided for specific types of customers, because when that customer comes to your site, they can relate with that and they go, this is the right company for me. They've done exactly something like I need to do. And lastly, this is the thought leadership. When somebody comes to your website, there's an incredible opportunity for you to differentiate yourself as leaders in the market. And if you take nothing else away from this today, everybody in this room, you all have grown your businesses, you offer a unique perspective, and you can support your web teams with this thought leadership that's very specific to your industry and how your product's better. And I highly suggest that you get involved with the web teams because it really makes a difference when those folks hit your site. How do we do this? You can do this through blogs. You can do some blog posts. You can create some articles that can get picked up by some of the publications within your vertical. You can support on white papers, just tremendous ways to differentiate yourself from that competition. Also, this content also is downloaded by customers when they're coming to your site, when they're still in that consideration mode. And to download that, we're going to capture a little bit of information, which I'll get into in the next slide and how that's advantageous. But Twitter and LinkedIn also offer great opportunities for you to be sharing your specific insights, across the internet. So now we've built the awareness. We've got the folks to your website. How do we take them from that consideration to a commitment to a very serious conversation with your company? And that's where we have to have some very targeted messaging strategies. And there's a software out there called marketing automation, which is basically it's email marketing, an email marketing platform. But what it allows you to do is if we had somebody who came to your website and they raised their hand once and they gave their email address, we can start tracking the activity of that person, and we can start seeing what content that they're looking at, what content they're interested in, what content are they downloading. We can see all the activities of this person who's in this consideration mode, who's what we often call in the consideration mode just a marketing qualified lead. And we can measure the activities and measure the level of engagement and put a lead score on that that says, okay, they're just not interested. They've done enough actions. They're ready to buy here. So we can kick that lead over to sales. And this goes back to Jill's point. This tool alone doesn't align sales and marketing as best as we can. So it's a very great way to automate that through segmentations on individual behavior and making more effective use of your salespeople's time. We've even, as the stat indicates, we've seen pipeline close rates by 25%. Now, how are we going to get back at old John and Mr. Iacocca? What's the difference between then and now? The big difference is we have metrics all along that purchase path. We can determine levels of engagement. And we can set strategies based on those levels of engagement to improve that. With this data, we can drive execution and to continuously refine these programs and to offer, a level of accountability that has never before existed. So we keep a very close eye on this at Fathom here, and we always want to identify what are the lead sources, what are the activities taking place that are between first engagement to sale, and we get a really good handle on the companies we work with on average order value and what are the lead close rates of the leads we're producing. And with this, we can exhibit across the board for most of our clients, we're seeing a $10 return for every dollar they're invested in these digital funnel management activities. So, in conclusion today, what we all should be doing here today is let's activate that 24-hour salesman that delivers the right message at the right time and generates that new revenue with a precise level of attribution that John Wanamaker didn't have, that Lee Iacocca didn't have, but gives you the ability to run marketing campaigns that even your CFO would love. Thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it. Any questions? I'll wait for the microphone.
Hi there, thank you, great presentation. You mentioned at the end that neat little statistic, $10 return for every dollar invested.
Yes.
Could you give us a little bit of color on how that's measured or tracked? It's a great stat.
Okay, so the question was, how are we coming up with a $10 return for every dollar invested? So what we do at Fathom is we take a look at what's the marketing activity costing, what's the expenditure on a yearly or a monthly basis, and what type of revenue is it driving? Because that we can do that by getting tied in and having very tight collaboration with clients on seeing what leads turn in the revenue that we're generating. There's another question in the back.
Check. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
This is kind of a two-part question. When you look at a content strategy, whether it's blog posts on the site and articles on the site and things are available on the website itself and via email, kind of direct marketing, what do you guys recommend as a good percentage of that educational, really helpful content, good for search, versus stuff that says, hey, look at us, we won an award, we're great? You know what I mean? The difference between those two things. Gotcha. What do you guys recommend as a good percentage, and is there a difference between the site and email marketing?
Well, the question was, what type of content should you put on your site? What's the amount or type of content you should put on your site versus how you should be utilizing content and email messaging? Am I correct in that assumption? Okay. Well, once again, the analytics answer all the questions. So if there's a mix of, we need to have some of this thought leadership content on your site, and what that does is that promotes engagement and that engagement, then we can start tracking the behavior of how much that content's being consumed, and eventually tie maybe that content back, sorry about that, tie that content back to if it actually led to a purchase. So it offers for more attribution. On the second part of your question on email marketing, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to send very specific content to the activities that person, to the content they've been consuming on the website, but just more of that content and more relevant because we know that's the subject matter they're interested in. There's a question over here, Floyd.
How do you go about acquiring the real estate?
So the question is, how do we go about acquiring the real estate? You know, I promised my CEO I wouldn't get into all my technical garble today. No, just kidding. Basically, like I said, there's two strategies for it. One strategy is what's called organic search optimization, or what's been referred to as SEO, and that involves manipulating or not manipulating, but structuring of the website to make all of the content more relevant to Google. That is with their ranking algorithm that allows that site to rank higher. So that's usually a longer term strategy. Secondly, if you want to get early real estate quickly, the whole paid search vehicle gets you to the top of the search engines early. On the downside, you know, the cost per visitor is a little higher, but it also gives you metrics that can help set your longer term SEO strategy. Doesn't seem like there's any more questions. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.